Hey group 1, so let's see what kind of vibe you give off to other people. Group 1, a big thank you to my guides and your guides for coordinating these messages. Group 1, what sort of vibe do you give off? Let's see what people think. What kind of energy are you putting out there? How are you being perceived? And I think we'll do all uprights today. Let's do that. So we've got the 6 of Wands. That's a very good start. Nothing bad about that. I like to see it. I just love this deck so much. I mean, it just has really unique imagery as well. Let's see. I'm filling this Devil card here. There's definitely something about your physical appearance that is quite magnetic. Because, and it's not in a sense of like the way you look, because we're talking about the vibe, right? It's more so, I mean, it's partially your looks, potentially, but I'm picking up more about your stare, like your facial expressions, because I'm feeling the word smoldering is coming through. Like there's something about the intensity of your gaze that is quite magnetic. You may be minding your own business and you feel someone else's eyes on you, and when you turn to look at them, that's what I'm talking about. Like your physical appearance may attract, or even something about your style may attract people just noticing you more than the average person. But then when you make eye contact with someone, that's like hook, line, and sinker. Like that's when you get them, okay? Especially in terms of like romantic love interests, like that's what does it for them. There's something about the intensity of your gaze, and I think it's both magnetic and alluring and, you know, romantically attractive, let's say that. But I think also there is this element of intimidation, and I don't think any of this is intentional. I think you just sort of naturally have this look about you. So with the Devil card here, you may have some contrasting features actually. So you may have, like, for example, light eyes and then dark hair. I won't get too much into your physical appearance because it's a general reading and it could vary a lot, but that could be a thing for some of you. But there's definitely something unique about your style. But it's funny, it's like you're drawing these people in, right? They're looking at you because of how you look or your style, but then there's a seriousness about you, and I think that's where the smolder comes in, and that's where the intimidation factor comes in. Because remember, the Devil is Capricorn energy as well. So to have this earth sign energy and then to have this fire, it's like that fire is drawing people in, but then that earth energy comes through and just kind of freezes people. Like there's something I'm hearing arresting about your gaze. Like when you know, you catch someone's eye or they catch your eye, it's like this feeling of stasis, you know, like you kind of make people stop and look. And, you know, I think that people definitely sneak glances at you. I feel like you're quite focused on your own business. You know, like you've got, with the Seven of Pentacles, I feel like you've got a lot going on, and generally as you're moving through your day-to-day life, you know, you're just focused on you and getting your work done, getting your goals done, you know, just going through your daily routine, minding your own business. But I do think that you attract this attention without necessarily really trying to. So I think, like, yes, your energy is attractive to people. Your vibe is attractive to people, but it's also quite intimidating. It's a bit distracting even. I could see you distracting someone from their work without meaning to. We've got the King of Swords. See, like, you're looking away, you're minding your own business, and you don't even notice, like, the sun and the moon, like, and you being at the center here. You don't even notice all of this attraction you're garnering. Wow, there's a lot of cat hair on this blanket. I'm so sorry. I guess Gracie's been napping again. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to get backup blankets. That way I can wash them, like, on rotation or something. But anyway, so with this King of Swords, I definitely feel like you're kind of in your own head a little bit too. And I think you're quite a dynamic person, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're one of those people that has a very, like, scattered birth chart, you know, with a lot of different modalities and placements in different, you know, like versus fire versus water versus earth versus air, you know, just having a kind of a birth chart that's more varied. Like, I don't see this group having a stellium, but if you do, that's okay. But I think for the majority of you, there's a lot of different sides to you, and you keep people guessing, and your vibe is almost like, it's like there's something about your vibe that's drawing people in, like the warmth of a fire drawing people in. But then on the other side of it, it's like once you get that attention, without meaning to, because a fire just is a fire, right? Like, without even meaning to. But then people try to come closer, but there's only so close you can get to fire without being burned, right? And so it's like this wall is put up, and people want to get in, and people want to know more about you, but you don't try to be private or secretive. Well, I shouldn't say you don't try to be private. You don't try to be secretive, but you are just very much about your own business. Like, you are very much focused on me, myself, and I. And that's not a bad thing. I think more people could benefit from minding their own business, quite frankly. So yeah, and then I think you're someone whose head's in the clouds a little bit, you know? Like, you got a lot that you're thinking about, a lot going on, and you're not necessarily too concerned with what other people think. And I think you're very similar to another reading I did. I think it was the How Do Men View You reading. I think it was that reading. I could be wrong, but there was a group in that reading where I just felt like you probably clicked on this out of curiosity and not because you actually care. And that's the kind of the vibe that I'm getting from you all as well. Like, you don't really truly care, but you're kind of just curious. Like, what is my vibe? But if people don't like my vibe, whatever. You know, like, that's a personal problem for them. You know, like, you don't change for anyone, and I think that there's a real integrity to that. So your vibe is something that is consistent. You don't alter your approach or your energy according to the people that you're around to appease anybody. You know, like, you're not out there trying to make sure that everybody likes you. You have this understanding that you weren't made for everybody, and not everyone is going to like you, and there are going to be people who have an issue with you and you don't even know why. You know, like, you're just gonna rub some people the wrong way, and that's all right, right? Like, we're not all, as human beings, compatible with every person out there, and that's okay. Like, we're meant to be different from one another, right? And so with this Ace of Swords here, I definitely feel like this is confirming this idea that you kind of almost like your energy pierces people's like consciousness, and you know, there's something about the vibe that you give off that just sort of latches on to people. And so again, it's a very funny dynamic. You're just kind of going about your life, not realizing this effect that you're having on other people. And I don't think it's unpleasant, you know, with the flowers coming in here. I do feel like there's, once people get to know you, like if we take this a little bit further, I feel like you have a very unique perspective, and you have a lot of interesting hobbies and passions, and you're just, I think you're a really engaging person to get to know. Like you're not a surface level person. There's a lot of depth to you, and so as a result, it's a unique experience getting to know you. People sort of feel like they think they know you, and then here comes another side to you that they weren't expecting, or you have some sort of hobby or interest that they weren't expecting. It's difficult for people to put you in a box and label you as, you know, a certain like archetype or stereotype. It's really difficult for people to do that, because not only are you quite unique, but again, you're just very multifaceted. And, you know, I think you give off the vibe of a very put together, kind of successful person, but also someone who's like a little bit above it all. And I think some people may view that as a bit snobbish. But basically, like, you wouldn't be hating so much if you weren't a fan. You know, like, why are you so obsessed with me? You know, it's like some people want to sort of emulate what you're putting out, but they're unable to do so, and that can foster a sense of resentment, and then you end up having these people who are mad at you, and you haven't even done anything to like warrant it. And so, you know, I do feel like people can take it as inspiration, or people can take it as, I'm feeling insecure, and so I'm going to project my negative feelings onto this person and, you know, associate all of these negative traits with this person just because I can't be who they just naturally are. You know, like there's a resentment there. Is I think another thing to you is that you have this quiet confidence to your vibe that, like, you know, it's difficult to copycat. You know, it's something that, it's a skill that takes practice, and I think you make it look effortless, and I think it's something you probably have worked on, but because of the way that you just sort of naturally embody this, it can be upsetting to people who are less further along on their path, let's say that, in terms of their like personal self-development. Okay. I hope I've like explained this thoroughly here. I mean, look at all the planets above his head right there. Like, your head's in the clouds a lot, you know? And I think your interest in like the occult and spirituality and stuff give you a really unique flavor. I think people are quite interested in that side of you. And they may be interested in that side of you because it's surprising that you're interested in those topics, and it's surprising based upon other aspects of your personality. I think that's kind of the thing. It's like, if your personality was a gift wrapped box, you know, it may be like this large box, right? And we may look at that box and say, oh, I bet there's a hat in there because it looks like there's a hat in the box. I don't know. And then when you're opening up the box, all of a sudden doves fly out and you're like, I wasn't expecting that. That's kind of like your personality. And I know that's a really weird analogy, but that's kind of what it's like in the process of getting to know you. And so I do think there's also a potential for people to misunderstand you or misrepresent you in their mind. And so it's like, they're constantly having to alter an opinion about who you are as an individual because new evidence just keeps surfacing, right? Like new aspects or different aspects of who you are and your identity keep revealing themselves over time. And I think it's also because you're very intentional about what you share with other people. And so it's like, if your personality was broken up into like puzzle pieces and your identity was like fractured, it's like you're just piecemealing, you know, bit by bit. Like, here's a corner piece, here's a centerpiece, but I'm not going to give you the full picture. And so it takes a while for people to get to know you. And I wouldn't say that you have walls up or that you're guarded. I would just say that you're very discerning about who you give your energy to. And you are someone who would rather have a small circle of people that you know are going to be loyal to you, people that you feel comfortable trusting, than having, you know, some sort of like large fan base almost. You know, like, you know, you don't care about having a sea of admirers. You don't care about having a ton of friends who just sort of yes man you. You care more about people who just authentically align with who you are, and, you know, friendships and connections that just make good sense for you. I mean, you can see this King of Swords, right? Like, he almost looks like he's watching his back a little bit, and like, he's ready. Look at that sword. He is ready. Like, if someone were to sneak up behind him, they would get it, right? So I think that's another thing too, is that there's almost, because we're talking about an intensity, right, to you. And I think part of that is honestly you feeling a bit tense, especially in larger social gatherings. And it's like you are internally feeling uncomfortable because, I mean, think about it. If you were someone who just naturally attracts a lot of attention without meaning to, without trying to, without seeking that out, but that's just, you know, how your vibe is responded to by other people, and then you're in this like a large social sort of gathering, this, you know, social setting, whatever, wouldn't that, you know, spark some feelings of like tenseness? Like, oh man, there's a lot of eyes on me, there's a lot of people who look like they're gonna come up and talk to me, like, and a lot of, honestly, of just pulling on your energy. And especially if you're someone who just likes to be focused on themselves and just, you know, is about their business, nothing wrong with that, kind of a little bit of a hermit energy even, that's a lot. You know, I do think for many of you in this group, you're more of an introvert. And so it makes sense then, like, you're internally feeling a bit uncomfortable. Yet, there's this other side to you that feels very self-assured because you don't really care if anyone in this room likes you or what. You know, you just kind of want to be left alone, though. And so, that odd combination, I think, gets translated into, like, this, you know how there's, like, this stereotype of someone, like, being like this brooding, misunderstood, you know, hot person, like leaning against a wall or something. You know how they do that in like teen movies and stuff? There will be, especially like old ones from like the 80s or the 90s, where they're like off in a corner, leaned against some lockers or something. I think it was in the TV show My So-Called Life, where they're like, oh, it's the way he leans, it's the way he leans, like, it's so attractive, you know, like, he just seems so unbothered. I can't remember the name. I think his name was Jordan Catalano. I think that's the name of the character, which you can be a woman watching this. I'm just giving this as an example. But I think there's something about your vibe that gets translated into, like, a sexy kind of energy, and that is very baffling to you because you're not trying to be that way, and yet you are. You know, it's like, it's funny how it comes to be that way, but I think there's an element to you in your vibe that is quite unobtainable. That's what it is. People want what they can't have. And you're not really putting yourself up for sale. So, like, your energy, I mean, like, you're not, you know, you're not a really chatty, social butterfly kind of person. You know, that's not how you're moving about your day. Not to say there's not a warmth to you, because there is, right? We've got that fire energy. There is a warmth to you, but you don't just give that out, you know? Like, you're not over here like giving away your energy for free. And so because you're a bit withholding, it's like people want to chase you. People want to win you over. And other people are just mad at you, you know, off the cuff, because you're not, you know, you're not falling all over the place trying to be really sociable, you know. I'm really excited to use this deck. It's so cute. Let's go ahead and get some cards about how you make people feel. How does your vibe make people feel? Group 1, how does your vibe make people feel? If the cards take a while to come out, I might... Oh, no, we got one. Here we go. That feeling when you lose the keys that were just in your hands. This is what we were just talking about. Oh, look, there's a kitty cat on this one. I'm laughing because we were just saying there's something about you that is unobtainable. There's something about you, like, I think, you know, especially in romantic situations, people think you're playing hard to get, but it's like, this is just how you are, like, all the time. You know, you're just, like, see this cat? Like, it's a bit removed, right? It's, like, off in the corner to itself. And cats are not like dogs, right? Like, there's a stereotype about cats that they are, you know, some people really dislike cats, and that's slander, but some people think cats are jerks, right? Because cats aren't falling all over themselves to get attention from you, right? Like, dogs can definitely have a tendency to, like, want to jump on you, and they want pets, and they want to lick you, and, you know, they want to play with you, and, you know, they're all up in your area sniffing you and stuff. And, like, cats are not typically like that, you know? Cats are, you know, a bit more cautious about approaching people. You have to win their trust. There's a certain etiquette with cats that you have to follow. And, you know, cats are definitely, I think, and we're just making generalizations here, but typically speaking, you know, cats are not out here trying to get attention from every single human, you know, like, they have their person or their people, and they're a little bit slower to open up to others in terms of, like, attention and stuff. So I think that's kind of how your energy is, where some people may take that as you being snobby, or you being, you know, like, high and mighty, like, you, especially with that Six of Wands, like, you feel like you're too good for us. Oh, you know, she or he, you know, they're too good to talk to us, you know. Group 1 thinks that they, you know, are better than us, you know, they can't slum it with us. But it's not that, you know, it's not that. I think with the Seven of Pentacles here, people really have to be patient with you. They have to be patient with you because, you know, you're not telling anyone your whole life story off the cuff. You know, you're not putting in a lot of effort to get to know other people. You know, like, you kind of just go through social situations at your own pace and at your own comfort level, and that's it, you know. And people can respect it or people can leave it. That's fine. You're not really too bothered, you know? It's just about what makes you feel comfortable. And so I think also as well, people may think that they're closer to you than they actually are. Again, like, I don't think that you are, I don't want you to think I'm saying you're mean or anything like that, but for you, true intimacy is important. And you're a very deep, soulful, intuitive, probably have some psychic abilities person. And quite sensitive and empathic as well. And because of that, other people may talk to you and talk to you and talk to you and think that they have this close relationship with you, but you're over here knowing they don't really know you like that. You know, you don't open up very easily. And if you are going to open up to someone and share your story and share all of these wonderful different sides to you, it has to be because you feel safe enough within that relationship to do so. And for you, true intimacy and connection is actually very important. And that's why you treat it with reverence. And so, you know, someone may say that they're your best friend or whatever, and you're like, man, that person doesn't even really know me like that. We've only ever talked about Real Housewives or something, you know, like we're not really that close. It's not really that deep. I'm not sure why, you know, they think that. They don't really know me. And so I think sometimes you maybe struggle with people who tend to stick to more superficial topics, as long as, I don't know, I think it's okay for you because you're not trying. I think people who ask really personal questions really fast bother you a lot, but I also think that you don't want to keep and maintain and invest a lot of energy in people who stick to more superficial topics, if that makes sense. So you're okay with that, but you don't want to feel like you have to keep investing so much energy, or, you know, you don't want anyone to think that they're closer to you than they actually are, because you don't want to hurt anybody either, right? Like, you're not out here trying to hurt anyone. So yes, I feel like there's something elusive about you and your vibe, group 1. I gotta say, I mean, you are definitely testing me here. Like, your entire energy and vibe is definitely making me think creatively in terms of how I deliver these messages, because it's not super straightforward. I think you are, like I said, a difficult person to pin down a little bit, you know? There's something that is very, almost like a shapeshifter, you know, in terms of your vibe. We have that feeling when the night sky awes, humbles, and then sends you into an anxiety spiral over the concept of infinite. You open up people's minds, you know? Like, the turtle floating through the sky actually makes me think of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. If you guys have ever seen that TV show, I think it's the episode where they have beef with everybody around town, and then I think the episode ends with a turtle like floating through space. But it kind of resonates well with your reading, right? Like, you may have beef with people and it's just one-sided, you know? You don't know why these people have a problem with you, but they just do. But yeah, I definitely feel like you expand people's consciousness. You are definitely someone who, I think there's an element of magic to you. And I'm not saying that just to hype you up or to flatter your ego or anything like that. But I think that there's something quite special and unique about the way you perceive the world. And I mean, you're quiet enough and you take enough time for self-reflection, and like, you notice the world around you. And, you know, I think it's because you're not so necessarily focused on people and the day-to-day. And, like, you know, we can allow ourselves to be completely consumed by the opinions of other people, right? Like, that's how people get super addicted to, like, social media, right? Like, they need that external validation. And I feel like you're just not driven by that. And maybe you have in the past, but not now, not your current vibe or energy, whatever. And so I think because of that, like, you notice other things, you know, like, there's just more mental space there for you to connect to, like, the universe and spirit. And, like, you know, you may be someone who is really most at peace when they're in nature. I could definitely see you being someone who likes to stargaze even, but I think that you are so appreciative of the universe as a whole and the mystery and the magic of that you almost embody that essence yourself, because you have such, again, reverence for it. And so it's like you carry a little piece of the divine, which we're all connected to the divine. But I think for you, it's like this magical little, I don't know, like this like sparkly piece, you know, that you carry around with you because you appreciate it. Yeah, and so I think to get to know you is an eye-opening experience. And I think to get to know you is, oh, this is going to sound so dramatic. This is going to sound so dramatic. To get to know you, though, is to get to know the universe a bit. Yeah, because you just expand that consciousness. You really do. There's something about you that's quite clever, too. I don't think everyone gets your sense of humor, but you're very clever. Oh, this is my favorite card. Okay, you got 2 cats, so you definitely have cat energy. Okay, we have that feeling when the craving insists that you've never eaten it in your entire life once. I told you, you have, you may not, I really feel like you're probably not aware of how sexually attractive you are, but you are. Like, I feel like people just, and you know what it is too. You know what it also is? You know how when you get a craving for something to eat, right? And you want it so bad, and it's all you can think about. You kind of, for some of us, can start to resent it, like especially if you're on a diet, right? Or you're trying to cut something out, and you kind of start to resent cookies and cakes and stuff because maybe you're trying to cut out sugar. And then when you don't have sugar in your life, or caffeine or whatever, right, you start to withdraw a bit, right? Especially if it's caffeine. Maybe you get headaches, you feel lethargic, you don't feel great, right? And then you can almost be resentful that you even started drinking coffee or soda, whatever caffeinated beverage to even start with, right? And so you're mad at something just for being itself, right? Like, I'm going to be mad at coffee for being coffee. Like, no, it's my fault. You know, I'm the one who started drinking coffee. I'm the one who got, you know, dependent upon it, you know, and now I've stopped drinking it, and now I have these headaches. Okay, like, we know that's what happens when you stop drinking caffeine, right? Like, it's a possibility that that could happen. Not coffee's fault, right? But that's kind of how people are with you. It's like, some people may like beg for your attention. They may beg for your attention and then get a bit dependent upon you. And then when you pull back your energy because, you know, you can't have clingy people. Like, that's just something that is not going to work for you, like, at all. Like, that would just be the worst for you. And you pull back your energy. Now, people are resentful towards you, you know, for doing that. But you got to have that space and time for yourself. You got to have some energy for yourself. You can't just be, because I think you are a giving person, but people can just take advantage of that. People can run with that. And I think, you know, when you set that limit, when you set that boundary with people, they get angry and resentful towards you. And all you're doing is being yourself and protecting yourself and taking care of yourself and honoring who you are, but people are mad about it. And, you know, and I think on the other side of it as well, people are just really attracted to you and really drawn to you. And we were talking in the beginning about you kind of like latching on to people's psyche without meaning to. And that's what this craving card is reminding me of. Like, I have a craving, right? I'm not gonna feel satisfied until I get me a little piece of that. Here, it's popsicles, right? Like, until I get this popsicle, I'm not gonna be satisfied. And so until someone gets a little piece of you, a little piece of your energy, they're not gonna be satisfied. And, you know, also, I'm going back to like the eating example just because it's kind of featured here on the card and it's an obvious one. But think about it too, like when you're trying to diet, which is just a nightmare in and of itself, right? But you're trying to go on a diet, right? And I hope I'm not triggering someone with saying the word diet, but anyway, you're trying to make a healthy lifestyle change. And I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay, I got it. This is why you just gotta say stuff and not get too bogged down in whether you're offending somebody, because you'll lose the message. But You know how when you're trying to make a healthy lifestyle change, and like, let's say you really want ice cream, but you're like, oh, there's so many calories in ice cream though. Maybe I'll just eat this low calorie fruit pop, you know, and that will satisfy the craving. And so you eat the fruit pop and it just doesn't do it for you, right? Because your mind wants that ice cream, right? It's a pale comparison. People may do that with you where they can't get your attention, so they'll go over here and try to find somebody else to fill that void, you know, to try to get something that you're just not willing to give them. Whatever that is, you know, it may just be your attention. And it's just not going to do it for them. You know, spending time with that other person, even if they're similar to you in a lot of ways, it's still a pale comparison. It's no substitute for the real thing. And so people may play these games with you, especially in romantic scenarios where they try to make you jealous with somebody else. And it's like, I can see right through that. I can see you're not really happy with that other person. Like, why are you bringing them around? Like, you're obviously just trying to get my attention. That's it. Like, your attention is like, I don't know, a hot commodity, group one, because people are just pulling on it, trying to get your attention, doing the most. Okay, let's move in. I got a lot of new Oracle decks, so I'm really excited to use this one as well. Isn't it so pretty? Okay. It's got like I hope you can see that. It's kind of like rose goldy. Okay. Group one, I think these are going to be your final cards. I don't know. Let's just see how it goes. I might get some zodiac messages. Okay, so we have intention to start. Even look at this, all the hills have eyes, right? And there's even like shadows looming in the background here. And there's sort of one eye at the very bottom, and all of this energy is being funneled down towards this like one little eye. It really is like you sort of being this center of attention and you trying to pull back your energy, right? And then these up here are kind of trying to feed off of it. So you're very, I think for many of you, here's what it is that when you were younger, you were probably a lot freer in terms of like giving your energy and giving your light away. And then as you got older, you saw how people took advantage of that, like mistaking this sort of like sweetness and purity of this inner light for granted and mistaking it for a weakness. And I think a lot of you are probably in a more divine feminine energy, like your vibe is very feminine. And I think that's part of what makes it alluring, because the feminine energy is definitely a lot more mysterious, I think, than the masculine energy. And so as a result of that, you've had to make accommodations. And so there's like these layers of protection, and they're not like walls, right? They don't look like walls, but it is creating sort of this energetic barrier between you and other people. And with the mushrooms down here, like, makes me think of how we were talking about changes in consciousness. And so there's something quite mysterious about you, right? Like you're hidden behind all of these vines, you know? And so I think that the way this is depicted here is showing me that this organically happened over time as a response to how other people were treating you. And it really is about self-protection, like you creating this, it's like a cocoon of softness, you know? There's nothing hard or harsh about your energy. Like I said, it's very warm. There's this beautiful fire to you, really. But you have created this cocoon of protection, and it's very soft, it's malleable, you do let people in, but you're very discerning about it. And it's like these eyes could probably get through all of this, but they would need to be shown the way, and you either choose to do that or you choose not to do that, you know? And I hope again this reading makes sense, because I know it's very abstract, and yeah, I do think you are difficult to conceptualize. And that's not a bad thing, you know, it's because you're this group, you know, must be full of very special, unique individuals. We have love. I like the combination of these two cards here because everything that you intend to do is in a very loving way. So when you create space between you and other people, it's not from a space of hating the world, you know, like you marvel at the beauty of the universe. You really do. Like I said, you hold it with reverence and you see the connections between all of us, you know, like you have an understanding that we are all connected. And I think that's also part of why you're not led by ego or this need for like external validation of other people, because you see the connection between us all. So you're not in competition with anybody. You don't need your ego stroked. You know, you're not out here trying to trample on other people to make a name for yourself. You know, like that's just not how you are. That's not your vibe. With this though, you are also very intentional about where you direct your love towards, you know? And so like you try to act in the best interest of yourself, and you know by doing that you are serving the best interest of the collective, because you are connected to the collective, like we're all one, right? So you do what is best for you, and you just do it with love, you act with kindness, and other people, I think, interpret that as selfishness, when really it's just an act of self-love that is quite healthy and, in fact, radiates a lot of light and beauty outwards, because when we love ourselves, we are so much more capable of acting with kindness and love towards other people, right? You have to take care of yourself in order to be anything to anybody else. And so, yeah, I think that you have achieved this higher level of consciousness that allows you to perceive all of these things that, you know, are being channeled right now. And so I think other people who are in that vibration get it, and then other people just don't. And so then they misinterpret your vibe as you being snooty or snobby, or again, thinking you're better than other people, when it's just the exact opposite. Understanding. Yeah. There's so much about you that is misunderstood or mistranslated, and yet I think that as you do open up that door and you show people the path towards getting to know you better, or getting to know you at all even, like this embrace of the tree, like letting someone in, is a path towards, or a path that allows people to open up their eyes to new concepts and ideas and perspectives about the greater universe. There's something about you, again, like I know it sounds dramatic to say, but there's something about you that is linked to like the cosmos, you know? And you know, I think that especially if we're talking about people who are very like rooted in this like earthly plane, and these like people who are very closed off and have to see it to believe it, you know, sort of like scientific minds where they can't be led by faith, and maybe they sort of diminish anything that is related to the divine feminine and the mystery of the universe, right? People who think they have it all figured out, right? I think that those sort of people especially are the most difficult to connect with you, and are people that you really don't vibe with yourself. But yet, for those sort of people to get to know you is such an eye-opening and beautiful journey for them, because now they are finally being enmeshed in a world within you that is reflective of all of those aspects of the universe that they would prefer to deny, you know, that mystery of the universe that they would prefer to deny because they don't want to have faith. They don't want to have a sense of spirit or the soul. Like, they would deny that that's even a thing, right? Look at this little like cat up here with the with the flower. I think there's something about your vibe that really slows people down and allows them to appreciate a beauty that was always there but they've always ignored, because I think to see the world through your eyes is almost like coming back home and seeing through the lens of a child. You know, like when we're children, that's probably when we're the most open, right? Neuroplasticity, right? Like we are very receptive and very open to learning and to exploring the world. And then as we get older, we become a lot more rigid and a lot more closed off. And so to be in your vibe, to be in your energy, to get to know you, is to see for a moment a glimpse back into the past of our younger selves and to see life through this expansive view. And that's where that expansion of consciousness comes from. This return back home, this return to early childhood, this return to a willingness to see beyond what we can physically see, hear, and touch and know to be true, to have this expansiveness, to believe in something greater, bigger than ourselves, to believe in that soul to universe connection that we've been talking about this entire time. And now I keep waving my arms in the air and I don't know why. There's something about your energy, your vibe, that is so liberating, and I think freedom is one of the most intoxicating concepts there is. And so that's probably also why people are drawn to you, because you represent a liberation from these very rigid modes of thinking that are kind of, you know, kind of shoved down shoved down our throats as we grow up. So yes, why don't we get some zodiac signs? Why not? That'll wrap up your reading. I always keep these by me. I have other astrology decks, but I mean, the cats are so cute. Like, how can you not? Okay. I don't know if I'm going to use the same decks for group 2 and 3. I may use different decks because I don't know. I feel like these decks were so perfect for your energy. I may use this one. But I don't know, I'm kind of feeling called to use a different tarot deck for 2 and 3. I don't know. Okay, let's just get some zodiac signs about how people perceive your vibe. So this may not necessarily be any zodiac placements that are prominent in your birth chart. It's just about other people's perception, right? Okay, group 1, how is your vibe perceived? Well, we've got Capricorn, which is right on the money because we got the Devil card in the beginning, which I said was represented by Capricorn, and that is the truth. So, Capricorn, I'm a Cap rising myself, and I'll tell you right now, there's an element of Capricorn energy that can be off-putting to certain people because it comes across as quite serious, and it can come across as snobbish, you know, because it's a more serious, reserved kind of energy. And with Capricorn too, like hardworking, successful, someone who is very driven, ambitious, you may come across as a bit serious. And I think also it's the sea goat, right? Like there's something about you that's just like mythical, magical, different, odd, weird, and in the best way possible. And honestly, Capricorn can have that physically attractive kind of energy to it as well, because it's that energy of, again, being unobtainable, because I do associate Capricorn with like high status, so people feel like they have to work to get to you. Let's get one more card. Pisces. See, like, how odd of a match is that, right? Pisces, I always say, is like the Gemini of the water signs. Like, it's hard to pin down. It's elusive. It's dreamy. We were talking about your head being in the clouds, of you maybe being psychic, very intuitive, empathic. That is all Pisces energy all day long. And we were even saying, like, you don't intend to be secretive, but you kind of can be like so private that it comes across that way, or so mysterious that it comes across that way. You could also definitely be quite creative as well. Yes, I just love that you got Pisces, because it's just so, like, I'm so glad I decided to do, I'm tripping up over my words because I'm just so excited about this. I'm so excited I decided to use the zodiac cards, because this is summarizing your reading for us perfectly in just 2 cards. So that's really cool. I think also with Pisces too, there could be something about you where you just show up in people's dreams, or you have really vivid dreams about other people, and you get a lot of psychic downloads through your dreams, but I think they can be quite confusing to you. And I think sometimes you may even struggle a bit trying to understand, because it's almost like an onslaught. Like, because you're such an open channel, I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but I think some of you need to hear this validation, or like this reassurance that you're not crazy. But it's like, because you're such an open channel, you get this onslaught of messages from the divine. The divine's like, they're so receptive, and so like you just get so many signs and synchronicities and downloads that you kind of get turned around. It's like information overload, and you intuitively pick up on so much. And I think that's why it's overwhelming for you to be in a crowd, because it's like you're picking up on everybody's energy, and then it becomes hard. You get a bit muddled, like, where am I in all of this? And you don't want to lose yourself ever. Like, with this Capricorn energy, like, you are very committed to you. And so, like, you don't want to get lost in the sauce. And so that's why you got to pull back a little bit. It makes a lot of sense. I think everything you do is in your own best interest. And I think that's so healthy. As a Leo, to you all, that is so healthy. Like, that's so good. And it's not that you don't think about other people, but it's that you know you have to do what's best for you, because nobody else is going to do what is best for you. Everybody else is serving themselves, as they should be, you know. And when you follow your own heart, when you follow your own guidance, when you really try to just be the best version of yourself and just do the best for yourself that you can do, that's really good for everybody. You know, that's a place where then you can, because you have yourself sorted, have enough energy to be generous to other people. And so I definitely think, because otherwise you just end up a martyr. And I feel like with this Capricorn energy, you don't fall prey to the victimhood martyr mentality that Pisces can sometimes fall into. Like, every sign has a debilitated sort of aspect to it. That's kind of the trap that I've noticed, at least personally in my life, that Pisces people can fall into. You avoid that masterfully. Like, you do that so well, because of this Capricorn energy on the other side of it. So yeah, I think the problem is that, like, yes, these aspects of you exist, but it's like hard for these opposing sides to you to be reconciled through other people's perceptions. So then you're just like a big question mark, essentially. Okay, group 1, this was your reading. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you were able to follow it, because it was a lot, but thank you so much for letting me tap into your energy, and take care. welcome to your reading. So something interesting happened. Yesterday I filmed group 1 for this reading and I took a break and I said I'll just film group 2 and 3 tomorrow. Well, last night I had selected that I was going to use the Pastel Journey Tarot for your group because I used a different tarot deck for group 1, and I don't know, it just didn't call to me for your reading, and so I don't know, I was just very drawn to the Pastel Journey Tarot deck for your group, and I intend to use a different tarot deck for group 3. I'm telling you all of this to say, last night I had a dream where I was filming and I was using this deck and I was basically doing your reading for group 2. And I'm like, haven't really had that happen before. So I think there's something about your vibe where you seem a bit dreamy to people. Like, I feel like there's something about your vibe that feels a bit like a fantasy. And what I dreamt last night was when I was doing your reading, I was saying you're a bit like a manic panic pixie dream girl. And I'm sorry if you're a man watching this, but essentially, like, you just come across as very quirky and unique. And I do think this group is probably mostly comprised of women, because even when I was, you know, dreaming your reading last night, you know, it was kind of like, you know how on social media there's all of these different aesthetics and like labels and stuff, like that girl. I'm not really big on social media, like I just watch cat videos, but I know a little bit, right, just from like messing around on Instagram. But and The Take, it's a YouTube channel. The Take has a lot of videos on that. But you know how people say like, oh, a Pilates princess, or I don't know, like a cottagecore girl. I don't know all the names, okay? I don't know all the terminology. But you know how there's these different types of girls and different types of aesthetics and how that's a thing on social media? I hope I'm making sense. Your vibe is like an aesthetic itself. So it's not necessarily that you're falling into like one of these tropes or archetypes exactly. It kind of gives Aquarius energy, because I always say Aquarius people are the same in the fact that they're all very unique. Like, that's what kind of makes Aquarius special, but also the same. You know, it's like the common thread is that they are unique and, you know, quite different, you know, like the space cadet in the room. And that's why it was giving like manic panic, you know, pixie dream girl, because I associate that with someone who's just very unique and very different and an experience like of and unto themselves. So an example of that would be, God, what's her name? Clementine in the movie Eternal, how was it? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That's the name of the film. You know, give me some give me some grace, because it's a long film title. Jim Carrey is also in that movie. I don't remember his character's name though, but Clementine would be an example of this, like that kind of vibe where you're very artistic and creative, and even if you have like no artistic abilities, it just comes across that way. And it may be, you know, an untapped side to yourself, like you haven't really delved into that, but you definitely have a unique vibe to you. It's something that people would look at and want to try to maybe copy a bit. Like, there's an energy of you being like a trendsetter. And I know I haven't even started your tarot yet, and I'm sorry for that, but that's what was coming across in my dream last night. So I feel like that was relevant because it hasn't really happened to me before. So anyway, you could be the type of person that inspires a lot of crushes, and not even necessarily like romantic, although it definitely could be, but you know, just even crushes from people who are the same sex as you, even if they're not attracted to the same gender. It's just like you're the type of, if you're a woman watching this, like other females would have a girl crush on you, because there's just something about you that okay, this is like an odd phrase, but it's like people just want to people just want to walk around in your shoes for a little bit, you know? Like, people just want to explore your mind a little bit and see what it's like to be you, because, you know, it reminds me of Phoebe from Friends, right? Like, she has such a unique perspective and sensibility. It's like, I would just like to pick her brain a little bit. I don't like that phrase, but it's the best way I can describe it. Like, I just want to explore what it's like to be Phoebe for a day, because it seems like it would be really fun and a bit chaotic and a little bit topsy-turvy, right? We've got the King of Wands, and both of these cards came out in reverse, so I just want to point that out to you. Let's get the rest of your tarot. The Devil. There's something very alluring about your vibe. Like, there's something about it that seems a little bit forbidden, and I think the reason for that is that people want to be like you, but it's like, to do so would feel almost irresponsible, right? Like, Phoebe's a fun time on the show Friends, right? But she doesn't seem like necessarily the person you would go to in like an emergency, right? Like, she's very she's a little bit spacey, right? Like, she's not necessarily like the most reliable. But then, and I think that's the vibe that she gives off, but if you think back to some of the plots, and I apologize if you've never seen the show Friends and you don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm sure most of you are at least familiar with the TV show. But her character, like, she seems really spacey, she seems really flaky, and she can be, for sure. But there are also a lot of instances on the show where she's very selfless, very giving, and just a really good friend. Like, she agrees to be a surrogate for her brother so that he can have, you know, children, and it's not even like they grew up together, right? Like, she's very, very giving, and I always like her relationship with Joey on the show too, because, you know, he flakes out on her, like, I think stands her up for like a dinner they were supposed to have, like, he blows her off for a date, and she's like, I would never do that to you. Like, friendship is forever, right? Or when his agent dies and she pretends to be his agent just so he doesn't have to receive that bad news, right? Like, she can be very protective, and I don't think people would assume that straight off the bat. So I think there's something about your vibe where people make a lot of assumptions about you. Like, they assume you would be really flighty or unpredictable, or like you would be fun, but not necessarily someone that people could count on, and I think that couldn't be further from the truth. So I think that while people are drawn to your energy and drawn to this vibe that you're giving off, I don't think necessarily that it really fully encompasses all of who you are. And I'm channeling a lot here just based upon your tarot before I'm even getting into like the traditional meaning of the cards, which tells me that you're probably just you're a very spiritually connected person, and I think that was weird. It's just like two honks outside. I think there's something about you that people kind of feel like you would be a fun distraction from their day-to-day life, but it's like they don't want to. I think people count you out. You know, especially in like romantic situations, like people may say like, oh, this is a fun person, but not someone I could settle down with, which is so awful because there's so much more to you than that. And I almost feel like also if you're a woman, especially watching this reading, that people might think that you're ditzy when really like you're really clever and funny, but it's like people don't really get your sense of humor. So they may actually think that they may just write you off as a ditz when really like you have like maybe a self-deprecating sense of humor, or you're funny in a way where it's like ironic or sarcastic, and people assume that you're being I've had this happen to me before too. Actually, like as an air sign moon, like my moon's in Gemini, I find that people who have like a lot of water sign placements or a water moon think I'm being serious when I'm just being lighthearted and funny. And so I had this experience one time with a Cancer moon where I really feel like they thought I had like low self-esteem or something, but I'm like, I'm just poking fun at myself. And, you know, if I'm gonna, you know, if I'm gonna dish it out, like if I'm gonna tease people around me, I need to be able to have a sense of humor about myself too. Like I don't, you know, take things too seriously. I'm pretty lighthearted in general. That's just kind of the nature of like having an air sign moon. And I feel like this person would take everything I said so literally. And it was hard because I always felt like I was having to backtrack and explain myself and say like, I'm just joking, I'm just joking. I joke a lot, I laugh a lot. That's how I like to live my life. And so I feel like there's something about you there with your vibe where people may just think that you're dumb, you know, when you're actually just making a joke. And I think that can happen sometimes to women, especially who are really comedic. But anyway. Okay, so, okay. Now, with this 9 of Pentacles, I feel like people wish that they could be you for a little bit. Like, people wish that they could, be kind of as fun and free and liberated as you are, but again, to do so with this Devil card, like they feel a bit guilty about it. They feel like they would be neglecting like their responsibilities or, you know, to be in this energy. You know what it is? Like, especially if you know, kind of like the stereotype of like what it's like to work in like corporate America. And if you're from another country, just basically like having to work in like a strict workplace environment where, you know, you can't really have like tattoos or, you know, you need to present yourself in a way that's very like polished and tidy and professional to the point to where you can't really express a lot of personality or creativity. I feel like regardless of your environment, you always bring a little bit of an element of fun, right? Like you're always going to show your personality in some way. Like no matter how strict your workplace is, or I went to a private school. It was like a private school. I will never forget this. It was a private school, but like you didn't pay to go. You just had to have like good grades and teacher recommendations and whatever. And so they had, you know, a uniform and they were really strict about it. And I remember like you had to wear white socks. And I was wearing white socks, but being who I am, I was like, there's no way they're gonna mind that it has like a thin little tiny stripe of pink at the top. Like they're not gonna notice that. Like it's a super light pink. It's just, I need just a little something, right, with this uniform. I just need a little something. And I'll never forget, I had like bent down to like tie my shoe and my teacher saw like the very top of my sock. And I got sent to the principal's office and I had to wait like an hour for my mom to drive to the school because it of course was out of district and bring me white socks. Like it was apparently that important for me to miss class just because I had this tiny little thin pink stripe at the top of my socks. Obviously I was distracting everybody from their learning. I feel like rules like that drive you crazy. You're like, how, like I am very like competent at my job. I'm a smart, capable person. Why can't I have just a little bit of personality? Like why can't I just express myself just a little bit? Like you got to give me something. And so I feel like there's a part of you that kind of goes against the grain, goes against authority, but sometimes it's like a quiet revolution, you know, like you'll find like little sneaky ways to like insert your own personality into stuff. And so yeah, I feel like you don't really play by the rules and other people look at you and they're like, I wish I could do that for myself, but you know, like I really need this promotion or I really need this raise or like I'm afraid to do that or I'm afraid that I don't have the confidence to carry that off, you know? Like there's something about you that's so brave, but I think people who discount you and think that ditzy energy we were picking up on, I feel like people who discount you would look at that and wish they had the confidence to do something like that. Like, you know, like I said, like maybe jazz up what you wear to work or something. And this is just an example, right? They may look at that and wish they had that confidence, but rather than admit they feel a little bit envious towards you, they would say, oh, group 2 is really childish, they need to grow up, they need to mature, this is a professional environment, you know, and they may, I'm gonna probably mispronounce this word, but they may infantilize you. And I think that happens sometimes. I can spell it. I can't really say that word very well. I'm sorry. But I think people do that, especially with that manic panic pixie dream girl trope. I think people do that where they're like, oh, that's a really childish energy. And I don't think that's true. I think that you just have this free spirit to yourself, and I actually think it's quite refreshing that you are connected to your inner child and your creativity, and that, you know, you're brave enough to just be your authentic self. And I think you definitely have an attitude of like, life is too short to not dye your hair. Like, life is too short not to get that tattoo. Life is too short not to wear my, you know, like wear my rings or my accessories, or, you know, like, I think your style is like so important to you. But life is too short not to express yourself, essentially. And I think that, you know, even if it's in a very small way, like wearing your fun socks, you know, like, you are gonna cling to that because you need that. Like, your soul craves this freedom of expression, you know. And I think it goes beyond like your physical appearance, but, you know, if we're talking about your vibe, that does connect a lot to like your style and your appearance and your sort of first impression, right? And I think as you talk and as people get to know you, I think it also comes across in the way you kind of just really say how you feel. And I don't think that you do have a little bit of a similarity to group one in the sense that you don't really monitor what you say to appeal to anybody, right? Like, you're very true to yourself, which I think is very beautiful. And with the Seven of Swords here, I do feel like people try to like take pieces of like your vibe for themselves. You know, it's like I do think you're the type of person who, remember how we were saying you like inspire like crushes? I also think you inspire a little bit of envy. And I do think people try to kind of pick apart pieces of you and they try to copy it, right? Because we were picking up on this idea of you being a little bit of a trendsetter. And they try to copy it, but while also simultaneously like judging you for it. So it's kind of a ridiculous, you know, dynamic. And definitely not everyone responds to you that way. But I do think that, you know what it reminds me of? And I've mentioned this before. I can't remember because I'm pretty sure it was an older reading on the channel. But Courtney Love, her album Live Through This, she has a song on there called She Walks on Me. And in that song, she's singing about someone who basically like tries to copy her and be her to the point to where, you know, she's basically like this carbon copy of her. And then she gets popular off that when Courtney, the singer of the song, was the one who did it first. And so I think there's something about you to where people will judge you, gossip about you, you know, criticize you, and then the very next week you notice that they're using some of the phrases that you use. They're telling a joke you told last week. You know, it's not even just like, oh, I'm gonna copy group 2 style. It's your personality. You know, it's like, I'm gonna pull pieces of this person away and, you know, use it for myself. So I think that, you know, you may hear certain things, you're like, that's my joke. I said that. You know, like, that's my thing. Yeah, I think people, and I think what is kind of gaslighting about it is that they wouldn't admit it. You know, they would never admit that they did that. Okay, so let's see here. Your bottom of the deck is the Queen of Wands, which I really love. Because there is that creativity to you, right? Like, fire sign energy is highly creative. So you could be Leo, Aries, Sagittarius, or have those placements in your chart. We also have, you know, some air, some earth. We've got Capricorn here, but definitely the fire sign energy. We're going to get some zodiac signs at the end of your reading, so don't worry about that. But anyway, I think that, because remember, this card came out in reverse, so I think that you currently might be single, Or if you are in a relationship, I feel like there are a lot of people who admire you but from a distance. And I think it reminds me a lot of Summer Walker's, it's not hardly a song, it's very short, it's called Fun Girl. And she has another song too called Just Like Me, that kind of hits on similar themes. But I feel like if you're, especially if you're a woman watching this, because the King of Wands was in reverse, and I do think there's a lot of women in this group, I do. But anyway, if you're a woman watching this, I feel like some men would judge you for having the same personality traits or just giving off the same vibe, because we're talking about a vibe, right? Like you acting in certain ways or holding certain beliefs or even approaches to dating, like they would judge you for doing the exact same thing that they do, right? So like men who like to have fun and have a good time would judge you for having fun and having a good time. Or, you know, if you're not willing to drop everything for them, but they're out here talking to like multiple people, they would still judge you for doing the exact same thing that they're doing. You know, so it's like, I'm gonna hold it against you. You know, and even if you say, like, I want to get married someday, they may want to get married someday too, but then they would say, oh, you know, she's really clingy, she's really, you know, she's trying to pressure me into getting married, and it's like, I just said I want to get married someday. I didn't say I want to get married to you or get married tomorrow. It's like they kind of take what you say and, like, run with it. And so I think there's an element here of unfairness. Like, I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but I just want to make that clear. Like, I think there's something about your vibe where certain people respond to it, and I think especially insecure women or jealous men respond to it in a way where they're really a bit hypocritical. They're really a bit hypocritical because, yeah, there's an unfairness here. Okay, let's get into how you make people feel. These cards are really cool. And I was worried when I got this deck because of how intense the blue is, and there's a little bit of sparkle on the side, but so far, like, it doesn't bleed off onto my hands. I was a little concerned about that. It's a really great deck. This isn't like sponsored or anything, but you know, I do like to support small businesses, and I got this deck from Etsy. I'll put it in the description box, like the name of it, but the seller sent me like 3 nice stickers with it and this cool little acorn crystal. I don't know, it was very nice, and there was like a little handwritten note. It was very cute. Okay, anyway. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We have that feeling when you dance like nobody's watching, live colorfully. I mean, look at this. Like, this is exactly what we've been talking about. Like, you are so vivid. Like, you just, it's like everyone else is in black and white and you're over here in Technicolor. Like, you're just a little bit brighter than the rest of us, group 2. And I love that. And that's very much Queen of Wands energy. Like, you just, I mean, she's got the sunflower, right? Like, you just shine just a little bit brighter. And even the fact that I was drawn to this deck in particular, like, it's really girly, right? It's like hyper feminine. It reminds me of Sailor Moon, you know, it's very cute, you know, like that kawaii style. And so, yeah, I feel like part of your vibe is even beyond like your style and your appearance. It's the fact that you laugh the loudest, you know, it's the fact that you, it's just something about you. You know, like something about Mary, there's something about group 2. There's just something about it. You have that it girl factor. That's what it is. That je ne sais quoi. Like, you just have something about, I may have said that wrong. You just have something about you that people can't quite put their finger on, but is just very attractive. But also, you know, I think especially for you, like, you're very uninhibited. And I think people who are a bit more uptight, it kind of rubs them the wrong way. And it's like, I wish I could be like that, but because I can't, I'm gonna judge it. I'm gonna judge it. You don't mind making a fool of yourself. Like, that's another thing too. Like, you don't care, you know, like, you're just here to have fun. You're here to have a good time. Like, what's the point of life without joy and laughter and excitement? We have that feeling when your car rounds the bend and the view takes your breath away. I think that your vibe is like, bam. Like, it's like, I think that, you know, group one was like, I'm gonna reveal myself to you slowly, piece by piece over time, whereas your energy is like smacking somebody in the face. Like, it's like, here I am, take me or leave me, I could care less. This is the full, you know what I mean? And I think that who you are, like, your energy, your vibe is so expansive that you're showing all of who you are, but it's like the perception of other people is more limited in scope. So like, you're presenting everything, you're laying everything out on the table, but like, I can't see that all at once. I can't take all of that in at once. It's overwhelming, right? And so I think it's not that you're not revealing all of who you are, because like, who you are is who you are. Like, you just, you know, you don't hide. You're not as private and secretive as group one, but it's like, I can't I can't digest all of that information at once, right? So instead, I'm gonna like nitpick and focus on just this one aspect of you, and then that's where it gets misrepresented. So like, both you and group one have this like lost in translation factor, but the way that it gets lost in translation or the reason behind it is very different. Very different. Okay. And you're a beautiful view. I mean, right? Like, okay, we have that feeling when your grandparent invites you into a sacred ritual, learning a family recipe. Aw, that's very cute. That's the thing with you, is that when you love hard. And actually with this Nine of Pentacles, this is kind of giving me like Disney princess vibes. I think that I think you really put your heart into things. You have a lot of heart. You really are very focused on creating this sense of togetherness. And so I think you're someone who's out there kind of very much focused on finding like soul family, like your tribe. Like, you're someone who, because group one had this very introverted kind of energy. Like, group one kind of carried the energy of like, I need a soulmate, I need my partner, and that's, you know, that's kind of it. For you all, it's more of like, I need my group, you know, I need my supporters. I need to find the people who are going to get what I'm throwing out there, you know? And so you're looking for people who are going to align with this vibe, but it's like your vibration is so unique and so different that I think it's a little bit difficult for you. And so you could be sitting here watching this, like really wishing that you had those kind of soul family connections in your life, like soul family friendships. And you may be really close with your biological family as well, but there's just this feeling of wanting to find kind of like your place of belonging in the world. And so I think that's why your vibe carries this energy of almost like wanderlust, like there's a restlessness to you. And I think that's part of what makes people nervous, and like people don't want to invest in someone that they think will leave them. So I think that's something about you too. Like, you're difficult to, people may view you as someone who can't commit, even if that couldn't be further from the truth. Especially in like, you know, a romantic context. They feel like you're going to get distracted by some kind of shiny object over there. And I think that goes back to that misconception that you're like ditzy or you have a short attention span. You know, like just because you're someone who probably like multitasks, or someone who, you know, maybe can't focus on something for a long time at one time, doesn't mean that you can't complete things in the long term, or that you can't, you know what I mean? Like that you aren't committed to eventually returning to that project or that thing that you were working on, because your approach is just different, you know? And I think that there's something about the way that your mind works and the way that you approach things that that's almost like more of like, you know, a feminine approach to, I'm sorry, there was like a weird clicking noise in the room. I don't know like where that came from. That maybe that energy of like distraction we were talking about. But, you know, I think that you don't fit the mold that greater society tells you should do. Like you're not highly structured, but just because you're not highly structured doesn't mean that you're not disciplined. It's just that the way that you go about things, like your methodology, may be different. You know, it doesn't mean that you can't commit to something or that you don't care about anything or that you're not a passionate person. You just have a different way of going about things, and that's okay. We don't all have to work in the same way, right? And I think it's just, you know, when things are different, when things are, you know, when people act in a way that is outside of the norm, rather than trying to understand it, some people just judge it. And that's really what it is. It's like, I don't know what to make of you, so I'm just going to criticize you. We have celebration, party, merrymaking, and fun. I mean, there it is, right? Like, you're a good time. Like, you're really fun to be around. And I think it makes you a bit sad that people kind of treat you as, oh, they're a fun time, but, you know, they're not someone that, again, like I could invest in. And it's unfortunate, too, because going back to the TV show Friends, like, Phoebe ultimately says that she wants kind of like that cookie cutter life. Like she wants some of the normal stuff. Like that's how she describes it, because her childhood was so unstable and challenging and horrible, right? Like she went through a lot of traumatic things. Like I won't list it all out, but she went through some really heavy stuff. But you know, going through the show, like she makes jokes about it. She says it in a very lighthearted way. You know, she says things very plainly and very bluntly too. And I think, you know, that's kind of her way of taking control of that narrative and not letting it define her. And she's like, you know, when she gets older, she's like, you know, I missed out on a lot of that like normal stuff that everyone else takes for granted. I think it's my turn to have some stability and some sense of normalcy, and like I deserve that. And I think that that was a shock, you know, even to her friends. Like Ross said, you know, I'm kind of surprised that like, you know, you want to be a soccer mom or whatever. And she's like, yeah, you know, I really do. I want some of the normal stuff. Like I do want to get married. Like why shouldn't I get some of that, some of those experiences, you know? And yeah, I think people make a lot of judgments about your goals based upon your vibe. Like people look at you and they're like, oh, they're spacey, they're quirky, they're fun, but you know, you can't rely on them or whatever. And so people just kind of think you're out here wanting to party all the time or like wanting to have fun or be silly and childish, and just think that there's nothing more to you than that, you know, that you don't have any goals beyond that. We have revel here, manifest, charm, and play. Yeah, like you may go about things in a way that's a bit different, like we were picking up before. Like people may look at you and say, well, they're not working hard, they're not doing anything over there. But really, like you're setting intentions, you're praying, maybe you do a little bit of spell work or something. Like you just do things that are a little bit outside of the norm, you know? Like you go about things in a way that's a little bit different. And just because your methodology is different doesn't mean it's not methodical, you know? Whoops. I do think your vibe is very playful, very charming. And then we also have, this card comes out a lot, and that makes me happy for my collective. We have share, give, care, and save. Yeah, I think there's such a sweetness to you. There really is, because you really are someone who really wants to build other people up, and it's such a shame because it kind of feels like a lot of people, or at least some people, are over here discounting you and counting you out and judging you and criticizing you, and all you're over here doing is like trying to spread the love, you know? It's reminding me of how like certain celebrities will go through like a spiritual journey and then they'll talk about it, and people who are interviewing them kind of ask them questions that are quite condescending or try to remind them a lot about their past, or, you know, I guess kind of view that as like, oh, well, of course, you know, you're a celebrity, you're just saying this to look good, not because you authentically mean it. And it's giving me the energy of the comedian Russell Brand, because he went through a whole thing where he was posting a lot of like spiritual kind of related videos and like talking about meditation and how it's helped him in his recovery and stuff like that. And so he would say things like, you know, wanting to you know, just spread love and joy and like peace to people, and like interviewers would be like, I don't, like reminding him of his past with his addictions, or saying like, oh, well, you're just saying that, you know, to make a profit from it, or, you know, whatever. And that's just like one example, but there's a lot of celebrities I feel like that, you know, you could apply that to. But I think there's something about you, like when you say something, like you're being very earnest about it, but people are like, oh, well, you don't really mean that, or isn't that really naive to think that, or, you know, I think people kind of put you down because of your idealism. And I think it's actually a breath of fresh air that you can be so idealistic in a world that can be really difficult and challenging. And so, you know, it's crazy to me, right, that like people would fault you for just trying to do your best and trying to spread love and joy and laughter. It's a shame, right? It's like, if you really think the world is such a negative, terrible, horrible place, why would you fault someone who is trying to spread joy and laughter and like comforting messages to people? Like, why would you, like, if you think the world is awful, then do something to change it as best as you can, right? Because, you know, we only have so much control, right? But yeah, like, why why would someone view you in that way and like put you down just for trying to spread love and joy and laughter? I don't know, but some people apparently have a problem with it because it is coming through. But yeah, you're very giving, very sweet, very loving. Okay. But also, I will say, because I keep being brought back to Phoebe from Friends. She was tough, right? Like, out of all of them, you wouldn't want to mess with Phoebe, right? Like, she lived on the streets. Like, she had to protect herself as a child, right? Like, could you imagine how, like, challenging and difficult that would be to be homeless as a youth? Like, horrible, right? So, yeah, I feel like that's another part of you that people misjudge or misrepresent based upon your vibe. They're like, oh, they're like free-spirited granola over there. Like, they're not tough. But actually, you are very tough and very strong. And I think part of it is this feminine energy that you present with that people just automatically, because of sexist notions, think of as weak. Couldn't be further from the case, right? Okay. Because there is a maternal side to you too, like that strong mama bear. All right, so anyway, especially protective over your friends and the people that you love. And I also think part of your vibe seems very connected to like Mother Nature. I don't know, I think that goes back to that free-spirited kind of thing. Okay, anyway. You probably seem well-traveled as well. I'm gonna stop talking, so we're gonna roll the astro die, and we're gonna get, let's get 2 zodiac signs, because I think I did that for group 1, and this is gonna be how people perceive your vibe. So not necessarily your actual zodiac sign or any significant placements in your birth chart, but, you know, it could be. So, like, we'll just see. Hopefully this isn't too loud. Okay, so we have Virgo energy. Not really surprised with this because I do associate Virgo with femininity, just because, I mean, it's the Virgin, right? So, and also, especially with this card here, Virgo talks about harvest. And so I think that, especially with the Revel card being right next to it, we were talking about you like sowing seeds of intention and sort of this idea of like your methodology being different and people kind of like misrepresenting that. And so I feel like with Virgo coming out here, it's like people sort of put you in this role. So if you think of a virgin, right? Like you think of someone being naive or innocent, pure, right? So they may put you in that energy, and especially sort of that, oh gosh, I'm gonna stumble when I say it again, infantilizing you, versus how you actually are. Like you're over here putting in the work, like trying to like sow seeds of intention and like putting, like getting ready for like harvest essentially. So it's like people, like you're goal oriented, right? Because Virgo is very hardworking, but it's like people don't see that aspect of you. They just think you're off having fun, being really naive, and not really seeing the world as it is. Okay, let's get another sign. And then we have Sagittarius, which I think is very much this card right here, the celebration card, and this live colorfully. Sagittarius energy all day long, like, and even just the idea of like you being well-traveled, or like that sense of wanderlust and that restlessness we were talking about. This is mutable fire. And we did get the Queen of Wands too, so you really may have some fire sign placements. But with Sagittarius, like, it is the traveler. It talks about long distance travel. It talks about travel abroad. It's mutable fire, and it's very, you know, it's the heat that scatters from the fire. So, you know, there's something about you that is larger than life to people. And remember how we were saying, like, it's so large, it's so all-consuming that, you know, like that view around the corner from, you know, that we picked up with this card here. It's like I can't take all that in at once, so I'm just going to focus on a piece of it. And because I'm just focusing on a piece of it, I'm misrepresenting the whole picture, right? And so people, I think, because you're so larger than life, can sometimes, especially if they're a more insecure person, try to douse your light, try to make you smaller, try to make you feel small. And I think they do that in a way of treating you like you're younger than you are, treating you in a very condescending manner. So you may get that a lot. And I mean, it's really annoying when that happens. I'm kind of coping with that a little bit. Like, I am gonna be 30 this year, and I feel like in my workplace, because of like my physical appearance, and I think probably my voice, because it does sound a bit younger, I don't know, like I feel like people treat me like I'm in my early 20s. Like it's like kind of crazy. I'm like, I don't, like I'm very professional, like I don't understand like what this is. And I feel like you kind of get that a little bit of like just people treating you as being younger than you are, just as a way to kind of almost like put you in your place a little bit, because your energy is kind of like restless and frenetic. It's like, I want to like lock them down and, you know, kind of put some reins on this because I'm intimidated really, but I'm going to make them feel small so I feel better about myself. Like, again, not everybody treats you like that, but here's the thing, like a lot of people love you. A lot of people just enjoy and bask in the warm glow that is group 2, okay? But I think the people who don't like you really don't like you, and that's why their energy is kind of just like almost like black ink, like pouring across a page, like it's just like ugh. And so because of that ugh factor, it just kind of comes across as kind of just tainting all of the positive vibes that are around it, which is unfortunate. But the good news is I don't think you're really bothered, group 2. You know, they're gonna have to try a lot harder to bring you down. Okay, so group 2, this was your reading. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for letting me tap into your energy. It was a really good time, and I will see you in my next one. welcome to your reading. So let's see how people view your vibe. How are people perceiving you? A big thank you to my guides and your guides for coordinating these messages. Group 3, your vibe. What do we need to know? Group 1 and Group 2 got some really unique messages, so I'm curious to see how you all will be. We've got the Battle Wagon, which is the Chariot in this deck, to start us off. We've got the 8 of Pentacles. The 9 of Wands, okay. Are you all a little bit of a workaholic, or do you just seem that way? Because you are definitely giving off the vibe of someone who likes to be in control, someone who likes to be in charge, someone who is about their business. Also, if this blanket is dirty, I'm sorry, it is dirty. Gracie's been laying on it and I didn't realize. I'm gonna have to get, I think, multiple blankets and keep them in rotation because I can't keep washing this one so much. But anyway, and then we've got the Star too. I'm feeling called to get one more card here. So let's get one more card for you all. But yeah, you seem like very driven, very focused, but also like, I want to do everything by myself. King of Pentacles. There we go. That's why I was feeling called to get another one. This is the King of Pentacles all day long. And even your bottom of the deck is Harvest, which I think is the, is this? No, this isn't the 10 of Pentacles in this deck. Oh, I think the Harvest is the World card. Sorry, I misspoke there. I think I got so excited seeing the King of Pentacles. I was like, oh, the 10 of Pentacles. No, it's the World card. But anyway, all kind of the same, honestly, in the context of this reading. Like, you want to be the person with the most cake and you want to eat it too. Like, you come across as so ambitious, so goal-oriented, but like, I want to do it all by myself. I don't want any help. I don't want anyone doing anything for me. You're very independent, and you're someone who comes across as like, if I don't do it myself, then it just won't get done, or it won't get done the right way. And you're very focused. You're very focused. And I think it's because with the Star card, like, you have some like serious ambitions. And I think for some of you too, part of this is that you have had some setbacks in the past. Like, it hasn't been the easiest road for you at times. And so like, you're very diligent. Because for some of you, you may have had things like really fall apart for you and you've had to rebuild from scratch. And so like, if you've had to rebuild from scratch, you are like very protective over what you have built, right? Like, you want to defend that as you put so much hard work and effort into creating this life for yourself and creating this abundance. So of course you're going to defend it. And of course you're going to be, like, very controlling about it. Like, if you are in a position of like running your own business or something like that, you are going to really struggle with delegating. You're really going to struggle with telling other people what to do, or bringing people onto your team, or even just working in a team environment in general. Like, you are not someone who likes to collaborate. Like, you want to do it yourself because you don't trust other people's work ethic. Like, and at least this is your vibe. This is how you come across. Like, you just come across as someone who's very successful, very driven, focused, and passionate. And you come across as someone who has the power to really make it big with the Star card. Like, you come across as someone who has, if you haven't already, you come across as someone who could really have the potential to achieve really big things in this lifetime. Like, literally being a star, being in a position of power and wealth and authority, and maybe even fame for some of you. So yeah, you're very much, like, look at how he's like guarding this from this fairy here. Like, this is my work, this is my passion. I can't afford any distractions. And so, yeah, you seem like you're all about your work and you're all about luxury and like creating this like life for yourself, and you really don't have time for nonsense. Like, and you don't seem like you have time for fun. You just seem like you're going places and nothing is going to distract you or hold you back from achieving what you want to achieve. So you seem like an overachiever. Yeah, like your tarot is extremely straightforward. Like group 1 and group 2 were so abstract, but you are very like grounded and rooted. And I used a different tarot deck for every single group, and the fact that you got so much, like, I don't know, such a heavy energy here of earth sign, but also, like, I know we have Aquarius here and we've got the wand, so this is fire sign energy, and, you know, the chariot is Cancer, but there's something about the King of Pentacles and the 8 of Pentacles, and even the fact that I initially mistook the Harvest card for the 10 of Pentacles, which is ridiculous because it doesn't even say Pentacles on the card, but I think it's because that earth sign energy is so strong in your vibe. Like Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo, like you really just come across as someone who is very self-disciplined and very serious and just very focused and driven. And so those are all things that I would associate with, you know, earth sign energy. So yes, but also the fact that I was drawn to the Green Witch Tarot, which in and of itself is very earthy, right? It's the Green Witch. So yes, very focused on the earthly the earthly realm here. Okay, let's get into how do you make people feel. Your reading might be a bit shorter than group 1 and group 2 just because it's very straightforward, it's very blunt, very to the point. And remember, this is the vibe that you give off to others. So group 3, how do you make people feel? We've got that feeling when an experience changes everything before and everything to come. Okay, so you definitely have a very strong impact on people, and I think it's because you serve as like a role model. Like people really look up to you. People are very inspired by you. Because I think people would look at you and say, that's someone that I want as my mentor. That's someone that I would want to, you know, kind of embody a bit, because, you know, people just see you as someone who is very successful or someone who has the hustle, has the potential to be something great because, you know, of that aspect of you that seems really driven. I think you almost come across as like a life coach without meaning to, because you're not out here trying to mentor anybody because you're very focused on your work. Like you wouldn't have time for that. But, you know, if you were to talk to somebody or if someone was observing you, they would feel almost like a fire was lit from within them. Like, you know, I see that person out there doing it. I need to be out there doing it. Like, look at how hard they're working. Look at how driven they are. Look at how focused they are. Like, if I want to get to where they're going, or if I want to be successful in my own lane, I need to step it up. Like, you make people, like, you light a fire under people to, like, step it up. And then we have, step it up. I'm sorry. I'm getting silly now. That feeling when you wing it in the kitchen and it turns out you're a god. Okay, yeah, you can be a little bit annoying too, because group 3, don't click off the reading. You can be a little bit annoying to people because it's like it seems so effortless. Like you're working so hard, but it seems so effortless. And I think you're really smart and like just naturally like gifted at things. And so like you'll try something out for the first time and like you're just the best at it. You know, like you try something out for the first time, you're just fooling around with something and it turns out to be successful. So like even when you're not trying, it's like you're successful by accident. And I think that can be a little bit irritating, to be honest. Like, group 3, why are you naturally good at everything? I had a friend like that once, where she was, now, she doesn't represent your vibe really well, but she had this thing where she was just really good at a lot of different areas. Like, she would just stumble onto it by accident. Like, you know, she was really great at dancing, but then she had this, like, really scientific, like, logical mind, so she was really great, you know, at like the medical courses that she was taking, whereas everyone else was like breaking their neck studying. She was just kind of like naturally, you know, her mind just naturally geared towards that. But then she would say like, oh, you know, I think I may become a vegetarian, and then she would go and, you know, try to cook something for the first time, and then it would end up creating something like really delicious. You know what I'm saying? Like, she was just, yes, like she was hardworking in a lot of aspects of her life, but then in other ways, like she would just try something just to try it and would end up being really, really good at it. And it was kind of annoying, you know, and because, well, here's the part where she differed from you, is that she was really indecisive and couldn't commit to anything, whereas I feel like you all are very committed. I'm getting off track here, but I hope you guys get what I'm saying. Like, you just sometimes try something and you end up being really great at it just naturally. We have that feeling when you're waiting for a car you know will never arrive. Okay, group 3. Sometimes, and I'm gonna get an extra card for you all, but sometimes because you're so focused, right? Because you're so driven, and this isn't a judgment because I do this myself, you can definitely neglect other areas of your life that you view not that you don't think that they're important, but more so you feel like something's got to give. Like, if I want to reach this level of success, then yeah, I might have to sacrifice my free time a little bit. I might have to sacrifice my self-care a little bit. I might have to sacrifice spending time with the people that I love. And I feel like that last one is what gets you, is that people kind of feel like you give off the vibe of a workaholic, and so people kind of see like, well, group 3 is so focused on their work, they're not going to put me first. Like, you give this energy off where you seem like other people would be secondary to your work. Like, you seem like someone who would always put their work, always put their goals and their dreams first, and everything else, even your own health, would be secondary to those goals. Not saying that's true, but that's the vibe that you give off. And we have that feeling when you know the dark hallway is empty and everything is fine, but everything is fine. Okay, yeah, you're that control aspect. You know, you come across as a bit type A, as a bit of a control freak, like, and that high anxiety is like what motivates you to do so well, and that need to like be in control with the chariot, like that need to do everything yourself, because to give away the control to somebody else terrifies you. Like, you have a hard time, or at least you come across as having a hard time trusting other people. So your vibe seems like this person's really high strung, like they have trust issues. They are not going to give away their power to other people. They're not going to entrust certain aspects of their life, or maybe even their heart, to somebody else. Oh, this kind of came out as well. I didn't realize this card was flipped over. We'll include this as well. It says that feeling when your plant baby makes a flower and you didn't even know it could do that. Okay, yeah, this is you. Like, look at you climbing this mountain, except it's a flower. But this is you. Like, you really have a very strong, I think, Capricorn energy and Taurus energy especially. I think those signs are like the most heavily indicated here, but at least again in your vibe. But I think it's like people look at you and think that person is going places, that person's going to be really successful, or that person is very successful, but it's like you exceed even those expectations. Like, you're just really, really good. Group 3, like, you're just really, really good. And I think it's not just professional goals. I think it's also personal goals. Like, whatever it is that you're setting your mind to, you just give off the vibe of, like, if this person says they're going to do something, they're going to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people take you seriously. People did not take group 2 seriously. Group 3, people take you seriously. If nothing else, you give off the vibe of being a person of your word. So if you say that you're going to start going to the gym every morning, then you start going to the gym every morning. If you say, again, this is the vibe you give off. If you say that you are going to move to another country and you're going to make that happen, you make it happen. If you say that you're going to start this side hustle, best believe that side hustle is going to be successful and you're going to stick with it. Like, you seem like someone who is very committed, and you give off the vibe of, you have a lot of integrity. You have a lot of integrity. It's funny, like, you don't trust other people, group 3, or at least you give the vibe of not trusting other people, but other people really trust you. Other people really trust you a lot. The oldest fairy. You definitely seem more mature than you actually are. When I say mature, like, you seem older than you are, is what I meant. You definitely give out the vibe of being a mature person, a responsible person. People kind of think you need to lighten up a little bit, though. Like, people think you don't have enough fun, and people think you take life too seriously, or even that you take yourself too seriously. Because I don't think necessarily you come across as arrogant, but more so you seem like you're so focused on making a name for yourself and establishing yourself that comes across as like you taking yourself too seriously. We have believe. You do seem really like confident though. Like, again, not arrogant, but confident. You have this energy of self-assurance. You know, you're not the loudest person in the room, but you're someone who, like, again, like, if you see someone, like, really hard at work at something, really focused on something, and really believing in themselves, and, like, you know, to put that much work into something, you have to believe it's going to pay off. Otherwise, you would be wasting your time. So I think that's where that self-assurance comes from, because you give off the vibe of being someone who is really self-reliant. And I think that's also why you're so inspiring to other people. Like, your motivation for other people. You serve as a source of motivation. And then we have attitude here. I think this attitude comes across when you seem like you're too busy. Like, oh, group 3 acts like they don't have time for me. Oh, group 3 acts like they're too good to go hang out at the bar after work, you know? Oh, group 3 thinks they're high and mighty because they work overtime and, you know, they just got that promotion kind of thing. Too many dragons. Yeah, you seem too busy. You seem really busy. You seem too busy for other people. Yep. I do think you can be quite outspoken when you need to be. And I think that can rub people the wrong way, because you're not someone, like, wasting time is the worst thing for you. Like, wasted time is wasted money as far as you're concerned. And so, like, if someone's wasting your time, I think you can get really impatient with that. And I think when you're talking, you're not someone for small talk or, like, mindless chatter. You're very intentional with your words, and it's because you're so busy. And so you can be just very blunt and very straightforward, and some people have a problem with that because you don't soften your delivery or try to package it in a way that's, like, super cozy and, like, you know, people will be receptive to. You're like, no, like, this is what it is. And, you know, like, I'm busy, you know, so, you know, you can get with the program, or, you know, it is what it is. Like, and it's not from a place of you having a bad attitude so much as, like, you just don't want to waste your time and you're really busy and you just want to get moving on to the next thing. With this devotion card, I'm really happy to see this, though. Very happy to see this for you, group 3, because here's the deal. Like, you are someone who has the capacity to be so committed to really put the full force of your energy into something. And that's very beautiful and very, like I said, very inspiring. When the right person comes along, and, you know, you may have already met your life partner, maybe you haven't, all of you are in different places of your journey, but I think that when you do meet the right person for you, I do think you have the ability to take that same level of commitment you have applied to, like, your professional and personal life and apply that to your romantic life and your home and your family, if you do end up like wanting to go that route. Not all of you will get married, obviously, but if this is something that you think you want in the future, I think other people would say, oh, group 3 is never going to settle down. Group 3 is, you know, a workaholic. They're never going to slow down. They're never going to settle down. You know, they're too busy, too focused. You know, that's never going to happen for them. And I think you shouldn't let other people limit you or put that on you, because I do think you have the capability to do that. It's just a matter of like when you're ready and if you even want to. But I think if you do have that desire, I do think you will be able to do that. And I think it will come about at a time when you are established and you do feel good about what you've built in this world. Then you will meet that partner. You know, like I just think that right now that's not your point of focus. Or, you know, if you have met your life partner, maybe we're picking up on a past energy here. But yeah, I think that with the right person, you can be devoted. You know, I don't think you're just a jerk who will blow everybody off forever. Like, I do think you can commit to not even just like romance, but like your interpersonal connections that matter to you, family, friends. Like, I do think you can commit to people. I do think you can give time and energy and love and effort to people in the same way you do like your personal and professional goals. But I just think that you have this attitude of like, I have to sacrifice now so that I can provide for myself and maybe even other people later on. And so like I'm willing to put everything else on the back burner to get this dream off the ground, and that's okay. That's okay. That's just where my priorities lie right now. It doesn't mean I can't shift them or change them later. It doesn't mean that they're set in stone. Just because I'm busy now doesn't mean I'm always going to be busy. And so, and I think that that will be a very rewarding thing for you if you do get to that place in your life, because I do think there is a need here for balance. And I think it's okay. I think it's okay for things to be out of balance for a while, just for you to get to where you want to get going, as long as you have it in your mind that eventually there is gonna be a need for you to return to some sort of sense of equilibrium, you know, with these different aspects of your life. Because I do think there is, at least currently, a lack of balance in your energy, and this need for human connection. Because, yeah, like you really just seem like your vibe is just, if I had to say one word, I would say workaholic. Like, that's what I would say. Okay, let's get your zodiac signs. Now, these are going to be, we're going to get 2 signs, and this is going to be how other people perceive your vibe, okay? So it may not necessarily be a placement that is prominent in your birth chart, although if it is, take it as confirmation that you chose the right group. Your messages were so straightforward. If you weren't vibing with group 3, it's not your group. Go pick something else, or maybe this isn't your reading. I always tell people that, you know, like our intuition isn't necessarily 100% all the time, or, I mean, you know, maybe not every reading I make is for you, and that's okay too. All right, so anyway, it's just not that serious, you know? Okay. Aw, look at y'all, little Scorpio. I do think Scorpio can come across as a bit cold sometimes, and I'm actually thinking of Drake, and I had somebody in the comments tell me before they really don't like him, so I hope they're not watching this group. But you know how he works a lot, you know, like he puts out albums like pretty consistently, or like different side projects that he does. Like he's all the time putting out music, and his albums are really long, right? Like he's always working, and you know, he definitely carries this energy of someone who doesn't look like they're gonna get married and settle down. Like he seems really busy, right? And he's a Scorpio, and he seems like private and secretive and all of that Scorpio energy that we tend to associate with Scorpios. But he's also out here buying purses for, you know, a wife that he doesn't have yet, and saying that he wants to be with his soulmate one day or whatever. So, and I think people don't take him seriously when he says that, you know, because of his behaviors. So I hope you don't take offense to that, but I think I was reminded of him for a reason, because of that confirmation that, like, you seem really busy and really driven. People just think that you're not the type of person who's going to settle down, or you're not the type of person who would treat their partner or the people closest to them as a priority. Your work would always come first. And I think Drake carries that energy of someone who, like, puts their work first, and, you know, music is everything and everything else is secondary. Like, he just has that energy to him. And I think people view your vibe in that way. Like, you're really driven, you want to be the best, you want to be the best, you want to be, you know, someone who is successful and regarded as such, and, you know, everything else kind of just has to fall after that. Okay. Now, isn't this funny for you to get this? So we've got Pisces here, and it's funny because we've got, like, now this double water sign energy. You know, the thing with Pisces is it can be quite elusive. And I always say Pisces is the Gemini of the water signs, because it's two fish swimming in the opposite direction. So I think this is keying into the fact that you say you want certain things, but your behavior or your actions don't necessarily line up with that. Like, and, you know, you may say, I want this someday, and people are like, well, but all you do is work. So, like, how can you say you want this, that, and the third? Like, maybe even you say, like, oh, I want to travel someday, and someone's like, how are you going to travel when all you do is work? And you would never, like, you would never be the type of person to just take a leave of absence from your job and go travel. Like, oh, you would never do that. You know, like, I think that people like to point that out to you, and I think the reason why that is because you seem quite intimidating, right? Like, you seem like a real go-getter. And so when anytime anyone spots a little bit of a weakness or a little bit of a misalignment with, like, what you say and what you're actually doing, because remember how we said, like, people view you as a person of your word, and if you say something, you're gonna do it because you're really driven. I think when people do spot those little inconsistencies, they like to latch onto it, you know, because it makes them feel better, because I think typically you kind of inspire. It's like some people you motivate, and other people, you know, you kind of prompt a little bit of insecurity, which can actually end up being quite motivating, right? You know, in the end, but it doesn't feel quite comfortable. And so as a way of, like, putting you in your place a little bit, people like to point that out. And not everybody does this, but I think with this Pisces energy coming forward, people like to, you know, just kind of say, well, I don't really see you doing that, you know, because they kind of just want to, make themselves feel a little bit better about the fact that you have this overachieving energy, and maybe you kind of make them feel like they're not quite doing enough, you know? And I also think with Pisces energy, like, if we talk about two fish swimming in the opposite direction, like, that idea of you're hard to get a hold of, it's hard to maintain your attention. Pisces people are quite spacey. And so, like, and I say that with love and affection to my Pisces people, but I think that goes back to this idea of you being elusive. And you're not elusive in the way that maybe some of the other groups were. It's more of the fact that you were very bluntly like, I am too busy for this. I can't give my energy to this. You know, like, I just can't. You know, I'm busy. And so, you know, like, you don't always respond to people's calls and their texts and their offers to, like, go out and have a good time. You're like, I'm busy. And I think also with Pisces energy, they are dreamers. They're dreamers. And I think for you to have such big goals in life, it's because a part of you is a dreamer. You know, like, yes, you're very grounded and you're a hard worker, but you're also a dreamer. Like, you wouldn't be you wouldn't be so dedicated to this if you didn't have really big dreams. So I think that's where that Pisces energy comes from. Okay. Group 3, this was your reading. I'm sorry if it ended up not being as long as the other two. It felt shorter. I don't know if it actually is, but it felt shorter. I hope you all have a great day. I hope this resonated for you. And I mean, I'll say it. Make some time for self-care, Group 3. Just somewhere in there, take care of your health, because I know you think time is money, but also your health is your wealth, okay? All right, take care.